Hello my sweeties and welcome back to my channel. If you don't already know me, my name is Celeste and thank you for joining my spooky little family. In today's video, we will be talking about SKINAMARINK. Let's get into the video. Directed by Kyle Edward Ball, starring Lucas Paul and Dolly Rose Tetreault, SKINAMARINK is a lo-fi experimental horror film that follows two children who wake up and discover that their dad is gone and all the doors and windows in the house have vanished. Okay, so before we get into my thoughts a little bit deeper on this film, I do want to just say SKINAMARINK is actually available right now on Shudder here in the US. It dropped today. Today is Thursday, and you're probably seeing this on Friday, so you know what? You have great weekend plans ahead of you. Head on over to Shudder if you want to check this film out first and then come back for this review. But I am going to keep this pretty spoiler free, so you don't have to worry too much. SKINAMARINK is the directorial feature film debut of Kyle Edward Ball and was based on a short film he made titled Heck, which is about 30 minutes and is actually right here on YouTube. Kyle Edward Ball actually has a YouTube channel where he makes these short lo-fi experimental horror films, much like SKINAMARINK, and a lot of his work on the channel came from viewers of his telling him their childhood nightmares, and then he would create this short film based on their nightmares. And to me, that's pretty cool. I really haven't seen anyone else do that, I don't think, so I have to give credit where credit is due. And speaking of his YouTube channel and the short film Heck, I think I actually may prefer the short film over SKINAMARINK. While SKINAMARINK very much seemed like it would be up my alley in theory, it was not at all what I expected. But while this film didn't really hit for me, I really do have to praise Kyle for accomplishing so much success with this debut. When hearing Kyle speak about the film, he explained in an interview that he was very much inspired by dreams that many said they had when they were alone in the house and they were little and there was a monster that they had to fight. He was also apparently very inspired by Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey, and I love Kubrick's work, so that's really nice. So while all of this does sound amazing, why didn't it hit for me, right? And I've got to tell you the truth, I'm really not too sure. I really enjoy the overall look and vibe of this film, but to be just a lot of shots of corners of the room and having really nothing but voices to rely on for the story was not really for me. And I think that this is kind of the case where I really respect this and I really like the aesthetic and the feel of it. And I think it's a really cool first feature film. I think it's very bold and very experimental, and I think he nailed it in that department. But I don't think that this is a film that really is for me. I've been learning a lot about how my taste is constantly changing the more films I watch, not just horror films, but films in general. And I do find it ironic how this doesn't work for me, but the scene from Everything Everywhere All at Once, where they are just talking as rocks, had me absolutely sobbing. And I think this may be solely because I personally feel like I connected more with the story from something like Everything Everywhere All at Once versus this film. I didn't really find a lot here that I could connect with on a deeper level. I personally think that SKINAMARINK is, yes, very reminiscent of childhood memories and things that may have been blocked out and really weird dreams. But for me, there was just a lot I couldn't connect to. Somehow this film, a lot of it feels very suburban, and I kind of did not grow up in that environment. So a lot of that for me was disconnected. Listen, I grew up in the smallest house in New York City. Like, I cannot relate to this. I don't even know what else to say. Now, I do want to say that in a film, I do feel like atmosphere and the vibe and the aesthetic is very important. But I don't think that a film can really thrive when that's the only thing that is driving it. I feel like there's a lot here for me personally that is missed in the story. I personally didn't really feel like there was a beginning, middle, or end. I mean, there kind of was, but I almost feel like it gets lost. And this goes back to the fact that I actually enjoyed the short film heck a lot more. And I think that's because this type of film for me works much better in a shorter format. I also don't think I really like these kind of dream core, liminal spaces kind of films. They usually don't really hit for me, but I was very excited going into Skinamarink because I had heard a lot of praise and a lot of good things. And I do think that there is a lot of good things about it, and I do think it's worth checking out, but I certainly don't think it would be for everybody. So now, even though I feel like the story is not really there in the film, I do want to talk about some things that I thought did work in the film. There were some moments that I did find genuinely unnerving and kind of weird and icky and gross. And I don't want to spoil for those who haven't seen the film because I do know it just dropped on Shudder. But the very end, there is a moment where our lead character asks someone, "What's your name?" Is that a spoiler? Maybe I will spoil it. Maybe I will, because I want to talk about that. There are a few scenes for me that were genuinely a little unnerving and just overall icky. There were a couple lines that were really weird, and I was like, oh, that's kind of like scary. But I kind of just wish I could connect to our lead more. And for some reason, I just really couldn't get there. I couldn't find myself really caring deeply for our characters. And I don't know if that's just because a lot of the shots are just corners of the room and we're not directly looking at an actor. I don't know, but it just doesn't really work for me. Speaking of things that I thought were unnerving and well done, this goes into the dialogue of the film. I personally feel like a lot of the dialogue is written very well for the kids. I think that they very much sound like kids, and I love that. That is so important because a lot of the time I feel like when an adult is writing kids talking, it almost never sounds like an actual kid talking. And I did really enjoy that the kids' dialogue felt very natural. The way they were speaking, the way they were overly explaining things and kind of not really getting to the point. And it's this on and on story. That is very much how kids speak. And that I did appreciate. I do think that kind of goes into a lot of the scenes towards the end that I also did really like. There was some dialogue that was kind of unnerving, and the way the kid responds is very genuine but scared, but also non-judgmental. It's interesting how kids are just so non-judgmental. Unfortunately, I don't think there is a lot to discuss about Skinamarink other than, the dialogue was very well done. There actually was a jump scare that I did think was well done. I actually really liked it, and a lot of people have been praising it on Twitter, and I think it very much deserves the praise that it's receiving. It's also with one of those toys from childhood that was kind of always just like a little creepy, and I guess none of us knew it was creepy. Until you look at it now and you're like, I know I am kind of speaking around it, and I am doing that just because I don't want to spoil this for you, especially if you're someone that's been very, very excited to check out this film. I know this has been very, very anticipated this year, so I think that everyone should go into Skinamarink blind. If you don't want to go into Skinamarink blind and you kind of want to know a little bit more about the kind of vibe it is, I would highly recommend checking out the short film Heck before going into Skinamarink to kind of dip your feet into that dreamcore world and see if it's something you want to delve into. I don't think that this film will be for everybody, but I do really like that this film is not your typical horror film. And I do really like that for a first feature film, Kyle Edward Ball took a lot of risks. I do think though, if you personally feel like dreamcore type of lo-fi, very quiet, whispery films are not for you, then you may think this is a snooze fest. So you may want to skip this one. And again, even though Skinamarink really wasn't my bag, I personally am very excited to see whatever Kyle Edward Ball does next, because I think he's definitely going to just give us the weirdest shit. And I'm here for that. I'm here for weird films, whether they hit or not. Give me all the weirdness, baby. It's kind of a little bit like how I felt about Brandon Cronenberg's film Possessor. I actually didn't really enjoy that film like at all. And even though I didn't enjoy that film, I was still open to seeing more from Brandon Cronenberg. And I was super excited when I went to go see Infinity Pool last week. And I absolutely loved that movie. I can't wait to watch it again. I thought it was so great. And so you know what? I think Kyle Edward Ball is going to make something that's going to hit for me at some point. I think me and you, we're going to click. And with that, I am going to be giving Skinamarink 2 levs out of 5. This film is very interesting, and again, it is a experimental lo-fi horror film. Actually, if you really enjoyed Skinamarink, I would love to know more in depth your thoughts in the comment section, so please let me know your thoughts on Skinamarink down in the comments below. All right, you guys, that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really helps me a lot. And be sure to click that little notification bell to be up to date every single time I upload. And let me know in the comments, will you be watching Skinamarink on Shudder this weekend? Have you already watched it? Again, let me know all your thoughts. I'd love to talk about it. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.